Labor wants to clamp down on foreign students doing low-level courses, saying government policies have created a backdoor to residency that needs to be shut. Unveiling the party's new immigration policy in Auckland today, Labor leader Andrew Little vowed to slash migrant numbers by up to 30,000 a year. To do that, Labor says it would make changes to student visas and the way work visas are allocated. The ability for students studying below bachelor level to work would be very limited, and student visas would generally not be issued for courses below that level. Work visas would be allocated according to regional skills shortages. I asked Andrew Little exactly how the policy would work.
Well, when it comes to the students, when we look at some of the courses that students are getting issued visas to do, particularly the certificate courses and some of the diploma courses, we think that they're not high quality courses. They're not the sort of things that we ought to be telling the world about in terms of our export education sector. And what has become increasingly apparent when you look at the rapid increase in the number of people getting those visas and the courses they're doing, they are more about the work than they are about the study. So student visas should be about the study. When it comes to the work visa end of it, we think that, for example, last year we issued 100 visas for people to be shelf stackers in supermarkets and warehouses. At a time when we've got 90,000 young people out of work, I do not believe we cannot source 100 shelf stackers out of that group who are unemployed and rather than getting them in from offshore.
How many migrants do you think would be affected by this policy?
Well, it's nobody who's here at the moment. This is all about the rules about the way we manage immigration in the future. Anybody who is here now, including students under various conditions now, we will see through those conditions, and anybody who is here now, will have their visa honoured. But when it comes to managing immigration in the future, what we're saying is we need to tighten up the rules, change the rules. The reason why we need to reduce the numbers is because you've got cities like Auckland in particular that are so constrained now. You've got, right now there'll be people sitting in traffic jams because the level of population growth we've had in the last 3 or 4 years, 130,000, a city the size of Tauranga, jammed into Auckland. It's creating too many problems. We need to have a breather, we need to slow it down, better manage immigration, fix the problems that we've got before we kind of look at what we do again.
I've seen a figure of 20 to 30,000. Is that about right?
The total number we think we can achieve realistically is between 20 and 30,000 reduction in terms of the numbers that are coming in now.
Won't this kill the international education sector? And this is a big export sector worth billions of dollars a year.
So that particular industry is worth roughly $4 billion a year now. With the sort of changes that we are talking about making, the modelling that we've done suggests that the reduction in revenue will be in the order of the tens of millions, so a small fraction of the total revenue that industry generates. In the end, it comes down to, are these genuinely educational courses or are they stepping stones to get work visas and residency ultimately? And we don't think that we should be using education and those courses at the low levels as a stepping stone to work visas and residency. We just think we've got to be more honest about it and run a system that that meets the country's needs and people's needs as well.
It could hurt some of those schools though, couldn't it?
Well, another policy of ours is the 3 years free post-school education and training, and part of that policy is about people who are mid-career, mid-working life who are going to need extra training and education. I don't think it's impossible for the industry, particularly in the private training establishment part of the industry, to then be part of that, looking for and finding training courses to help people who are looking for new jobs, and part of that rapid turnover and jobs that people are going to be experiencing in the future.
What about the low-paid workforce? I mean, these are people who work in restaurants, cafes, as you say, in the supermarkets. How are you going to replace them?
Well, we've got 90,000 young people right now who are not on any work or educational training, and my view is, and I make no apology for it, we have a moral obligation to be managing our economy and managing government policy in a way that makes sure we're doing everything we can to get them into work. And I do not accept that none of that 90,000, wherever they may be, are ill-equipped to do some of these jobs. So there might be a bit of an effort, and we might have an effort to work with both the employers and those young people, but I'd rather spend our time and effort on doing that as a more well-balanced approach to managing labour market needs than just relying on immigration. We've had this massive growth in immigration in the last few years that kind of that is creating its own problems in terms of, the constraints you're now experiencing in Auckland and cities like Hamilton and Tauranga as well. We've got to fix both problems, and this is a way of doing it.
But how are you going to? I mean, employers are saying that they are struggling to fill their jobs. Employers in the tourism, the hospitality industry, they just cannot get New Zealanders to fill those jobs.
When you look at the fact that, we issued work visas for 100 people from overseas to be shelf stackers here, or 1,000 people to be retail supervisors, what it tells me is that the test, or the labour market test that is meant to be applied at the moment, isn't being applied properly. I do not accept that within the 140,000 people we have out of work in New Zealand at the moment, we don't have 100 shelf stackers and we don't have 1,000 people who can be retail supervisors. So this is about managing all sides of that problem in a much more sophisticated way and a clever way that actually is going to meet the needs of everybody concerned, reducing the pressure and the congestion on cities like Auckland, making sure that those out of work get a fair chance to get work.
The exceptional skills visa, how will that work? What kind of people do you want to bring in under that?
So this deals with a silly problem we have at the moment, where if you're like 25 years old and you've just got your pre kind of graduate level certificate and whatever, and you've had a couple of years work experience in New Zealand, you have a much higher chance of getting residency than if you're a 45-year-old paediatric oncologist. We have a shortage in some very high skilled areas that we need to fill, and so the exceptional skills category area allows us to fill those areas of shortage of skills that we have very high level sophisticated skills with a minimum of fuss. We need to fill those gaps as well.
But how do you? I mean, obviously they're looking for those people now and they can't fill them. So what are you going to do that's different?
No, that's not correct actually. You talk to some people, I've met medical specialists in particular who said they're 45, 50 years old and they can't get a visa because they're told that they don't meet all the criteria. They've got just the skills that some of our hospitals are crying out for. It's because of the way the system works at the moment, and the point system is that there's you could have 20 years work experience in a very highly sophisticated area of medicine and you still don't qualify to get in. So this is again about using immigration and our immigration system to fill genuine skills gaps, not just this what has now become this arbitrary point system that actually doesn't make sense anymore.
You have a plan to get migrant workers out to the regions. I mean, how do you get them there, and then how do you make them stay there? Because that's been a problem in the past as well.
What we have at the moment is a point system that says, if you promise to go in a particular region other than Auckland, then you'll get extra points. But there's nothing, unless if you don't have a job to go to there, you're not going to stick around there for very long. So we're saying let's work with businesses and unions and community leaders in those regions about, you tell us what the genuine skills shortages there are. Let's work at that at a regional level. For people who want to come and settle here and we want to move them away from Auckland, if they've got a job opportunity in another region, they'll stay there because they've got the job there. So it's about using the immigration system to do what in New Zealand it was always there to do, which is to fill skills gaps, genuine skills gaps that are there. At the moment, our immigration system is very much driven from what somebody in Wellington decides is needed. The regions don't get much of a look in. I'm saying let's give the regions a look in. Let's be more sophisticated about how we manage immigration and meet some of those regional skills gaps.
And that's Labour leader Andrew Little.